Okay, we're gonna just go ahead and get into it today. I'm gonna light this candle because I'm feeling godly. Because I just want to open this with praise, because I feel like there was a big point where I realized oh, there was always something much bigger going on. I'm having one of those moments, and I feel like it pertains to this message where it's realizing the fact that there are also things that are unseen, believe it or not, that you don't realize Spirit might be factoring in. So while you're thinking you're suffering and the one goal that you're set on that you want is being delayed or held up or whatever, you wish it would go faster. And then the whole time something gets revealed to you where it's oh, but if I certainly had that manifestation that I swear is late, that Spirit should have been had for me, it's almost how do I say, that one track mindedness didn't account for the actual tracks of your life and what's actually going on. So I feel like there's this opening message that kind of has to do with needing to really recognize where there are things that you really can't see, and there are parts of yourself that will need you perhaps, and there were things that you need to be available for, that Spirit and your guides specifically, because one of my guides has really come through to me and my partner and has really just been trust me when I say we've got it all worked out for you. So that's one of the bigger messages. But let me see where I want to start today, because I didn't really even think about it, but I think we're gonna go Osho Zen to get the opening message, to see if there's something that can correlate to this sort of not realizing that you're focused and you're right to want and need to manifest certain things, but there's you're getting revealed that there was this even bigger plan that had the goal of bringing in an even bigger fulfillment. But in order for that to happen, certain things can't happen because you wouldn't be available for this. So remembering the order of operations, and I know that sucks to hear, and I know sometimes we're in the middle of patience, but I've actually been finding that today I'm stretching into the patience of it all and just being pretty enthusiastic about things, about what I was being patient for, because I think we're about to see, maybe that's the title of this video, what we've been patient for. But let's see if the Osho Zen can confirm any of the things that I've just said to you. Thank you, Spirit. Wow, yeah, there it is, the master. Right? I think the master realizes that they're the master when they realize that they were orchestrating and they're working in tandem with their own energy to produce optimal outcomes. Meaning, the master doesn't get upset when certain things have to go one way or another, or this has to go in this order and in an order that they may not even be able to see, because they trust in their own energy, they trust in what's being revealed to them, and they know that that's all coming to pass without time needing to be really an objective or a factor. So that's a big piece of it. But let's look and see, because at the bottom of the deck we got silence. So I feel like it's been crickets for us, and I feel like that's been my problem. I have been wondering why there are some really degrading or humbling moments I've gone through where I've just been ghosted, or very logical things will pop out and try to grab me because I have my vortex open right now, and then Spirit will shut it down by making them ghost, or making a really responsive employer disappear, or all these weird things, right? And so I feel in the silence, this master, which has definitely been my energy, right, has been what the it's humbling. It could hurt your ego deeply. It can feel okay, so what am I doing? Your security is also in question. So I feel silence has been the answer to a lot of things. We're just not getting an answer, we're just not getting any feedback. I'm the kind of person that's I would really prefer you to contribute whatever it is, just contribute that, because that's how I learn, and that's how I process and I go through this world, is allowing everything to submit what its energy is, in order to just be able to continue to discern truth. And so silence is a different space, because silence communicates something, one, but I think right now the interesting part of this silence is that you were being tested to master the art of silence and what silence means. Because usually when I say I'm silent, silence is an answer, no answer is an answer, right? But I have a feeling this silence, there is an answer, but it's not an answer of like actually leaving you. Like, I'm feeling like there's a point that spirit needed things to hold off until, so that you could be available for something, and then therefore, so things had to go silent. So I'm assuming there's probably going to be this point that I'm seeing where everything almost feels like, wow, I thought it was silence, as in that was their answer, as in like it's done, as in I don't, when someone ghosts you or someone doesn't get back to you, and it's like no thoughts, no words, no nothing. But the reality is, and so this is about the master going in and finding closure in the silence, being able to close things off, being able to cut cords in silence, being able to decide and say, well, even if there isn't a pending answer, or even if it isn't that they want to say no, or that they want to be disconnected right now, I'm going to go ahead and move on, because if it was for me, it'll always come back. It'll always be. It won't even need to come back. It'll always be. So I don't really have to do that. But I think the only answer is to move through the silence. So movement through silence is another big thing. But yeah, I'm just kind of foreseeing that there's going to be this day where everything had to hold off until, or you had to be kept free or available until, and hopefully if you were on this journey, you were trying to be active and you were trying to get in touch with the bigger picture of what was going on, like the bigger things, life events that don't just involve you. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you might have a loved one that you really care about and they might be having a major life event or something, right? Like, that's kind of the situation for us. Like, I can just give you real context. Like, next week we're going to go visit our grandparents, because our grandpa was just like in the hospital this weekend, and we were just all like, okay, yeah, well, like, and we just kind of have a family where it's like, at the end of the day, the unit is the unit, and if you call, we're there. And I think it's been this really, really positive, serendipitous, like, it's not even dramatic. I'm not even gonna call it dramatic. I can clearly see what spirit's doing, like pulling certain strings in order, because sometimes like you'll have a scare in the family, like we're all concerned about so and so's health, but it's really just time for us to like reconvene and be like reminded of who we are. So I'm just having this feeling that kind of energy of like certain things that come up that you realize now, like spirit is asking you, if you haven't thought about it, like go back and realize how if things went to your plan, you wouldn't be available for certain things that really, really matter to you. And they may not just be like getting security or money or whatever, but like life events, like, making the difference between getting more memories with the loved one and not getting memories with the loved one, like things like that. So there's this beautiful awareness that I'm going into this weekend celebrating, just understanding that like if things went my way, like I would have blocked so many opportunities for myself. So the openness, so this is about us grounding down for 7 minutes now, how important it is to be grateful for what temperance is tempering, because it is so much bigger, it's so much more interconnected than just your view of what is. And you've changed so much, and I also see an opportunity for this master to be viewed as the master. Like, I feel like the mastery that you are will silence people, is another message I'm hearing. Like, it will bring peace to any, like, people, or there's a surety, like when the master comes through as the master, when you're being crowned as the master, like when it physically manifests. Because I think in the last videos we've been talking about this, like, it's not here yet, like you're in the storm, like you're gonna have to like really focus on that peace within, which is why we got brought to this sort of holding space. Then we talk about astrologically how the last 3 or 4 months of the first few months, like after February, from like March, April, May, and beginning, like March, April, May was kind of just like filler, right, astrologically, which meant character development, sure, but also holding people to be in these karmic and destined and fated opportunities. So the divine is, you just have to give respect, because the divine is having to temper, like, okay, well, this is, I have to take into account y'all's free will. You might bumbleclot pick a certain decision that would make me need to reroute how this is connected to that, and how I can get this person here and that person there. So I'm just getting buku energy off of this mastery and silence, like so many energies. But let's go ahead and find sorry, I'm just looking for Z Master. Morality, trust, healing, the creator. Oh, there it is, 46. Okay. So the message, let's see how this pertains to what I've been sharing this far. The master in Zen is not a master over others. Didn't we just say that? Master of self? But a master of himself. His every gesture and his every word reflect his enlightened state. He has no private goals, no desire that anything should be other than the way it is. And this, you see what I mean? There's a mastery because you've come, like today, like literally today, I had to like watch myself come into the awareness that they're like, I can be so mad about something happening that I'm so convinced is just unjust and wrong, and that shouldn't have happened. But then I can realize like the only goal, the time when you know that you're a master is like when you can literally, not even about humbling yourself, or you don't have to do anything over, but you can acknowledge everything that is perfect. And when you have that awareness, there's no bad things. Like for example, like I said, my in-laws could call and say like, grandpa's not looking well. I can check in with my intuition and know that all is well, even if he's in the hospital, because it actually was this great opportunity to bring the family together. Like we weren't supposed to see this side of our family for like till November. Here we are in July. So this is a significant quickening, and it's not just about like, I don't even and I'm not even manifesting that this is about needing to see people before they die. We don't have that kind of bondage either, right? This is about movement, changes, maturation, like an alignment and an opportunity for us to just choose. Now that we get further and further away from the old karmic timeline, this is a time for us to reacquaint with each other as our new energies, you know what I mean? And so it's so important because there are no private goals, like, right? There is no, like, everything that just is. And I'm realizing now that I can be so scared or fickle or upset about literally whatever, and it really won't matter because he's just here to soak up his presence and be. So look, his disciples gather around him not to follow him, but to soak up his presence and be inspired by his example. That's another thing. Like also through and through, like you're realizing like people want to be around you, not because they need to follow what you're doing, but they just want to soak up how present you truly are, because you're going to give an energy that says everything that is happening is as it should be, right? Like there's no like fear mentality, and there's also a bigger cost to that, because now we can have this opportunity unplanned that was very much arbitrated by the universe to come through and get its will done, right? So when we talk about your will be done, right, when we reference the divine, that's what I feel like is happening, is understanding now finally that you see a couple more things like, yeah, but maybe we needed to keep you freed up because maybe you had a lot of bigger things that you just would rather focus your attention on. And is it all that bad? Like I said, like I ended my job in mid-May, so last month, but June is a crazy month. It was my entrance into the 6th year of my relationship. Like, I mean, it was a big deal for me. And sure, there was a lot of, you could have fears about it, but I also just saw it as like, yeah, but ironically enough, like, I know that this time of year, like, is really important for me to be available to my family, and so the movement and the lack of obligation in other places, needing to expedite that process really wouldn't have mattered anyways, because I wouldn't have wanted it to, I wouldn't have wanted to be, like, starting my first day of my anniversary. Like, I want to be free for those things, so when I really look at it, you'll remember the ways that everything just was. And I feel like the end of Gemini season coming into Cancer season, there's just this big awareness of mastering your own energy, because you start to feel it in your body how, like, and maybe you're even seeing real examples of like how it really doesn't it really is God's will at the end of the day, and everything, no matter how you're perceiving it, is for your highest good. Like this morning we woke up and my dog, quote unquote, allegedly, we woke up, I had made katsu tofu, but like I had like meal prepped, so I had made like 2 full blocks of tofu slice, so maybe like 20 to 25 pieces of deep fried katsu tofu, which is a lot of cooking, and it's not, we need about 2 of those to eat like one meal, right? So I pre-done all this yesterday because I was like, great, we're going to the weekend. I meal prepped some cabbage, and rice, and all of these things, right? And so I was like, okay, great, we'll be good for the weekend. And then we wake up this morning, and the plate that we had left it covered like on the countertop or whatever. When I woke up, there was only 1 piece of tofu with the plastic over it, and I was like, immediately, I was like, Mom, where did you put the tofu? Like, where's the tofu?
mind you, Dennis woke up at 3, went outside to go get water, and they were there. The tofu was there. So this is like the missing mishap happened either between hours like 4 a.m. to like 7:30 because we were up already on our morning walk at this point. So we're like, Mom, where's the tofu? And she's like, oh, I don't know. When I woke up, I just had seen the napkin on the floor, and I figured you guys got hungry in the middle of the night. So allegedly, the only other culprit would be that my dog literally at some wee hour of the morning climbed onto the counter, ate the whole plate, put the saran wrap back over, left one, and then just went back to sleep. So it was like 20 pieces of tofu that were missing and eaten. I mean, like big, like, you know what I mean? So, and it was just bothering me so much. It was like, I was like, that's not even true. Like, what did y'all do? Like, irrational thoughts, because I'm just like, what? Like, and I was devastated, more so because it took a long time to meal prep that, so it was more just like, well, that's a waste of money, time, and energy. Now we also don't have food for the weekend, so I'm just kind of, because I have all this other stuff that goes with the katsu tofu prepared, so there's no actual, so anyways. Nonetheless, Taurus moon here the 12th, so you know that bothered me, because I was like, that's not a good enough answer. Bailey, the dog ate it? Okay. So, but it was sort of allegorical to the message for today, which is that regardless of how you're spinning it, it will serve, it is for the highest good. Like, these things are happening for the highest good. So, all that to say, like, no matter how much you want to blame or say that shouldn't have happened, like this morning I was just so frustrated. I didn't even want to discipline my dog because she wouldn't even know what I would be disciplining her for. She'd be like, what? Like, you know what I mean? Because it was like hours after it already happened, and I mean, I guess I left this stuff on the counter, I mean, wrapped, and she's never like eaten, so it was just like really a bizarre situation. What I took away from that is that exact same energy that I was telling you about, where it's like you having to realize that the benefits or the positivity in having something like that happen. And so yeah, I'm finding grace in it, and as the day's gone on, I've just realized that it's opening up other things for me, and that I can keep going, and that I'm going to be supported, and it's not going to be a bad thing, and I'm going to be fine, and it's going to be fine because I'm going to choose to be fine, and because I have people who really love me and support me and want to show up, like family, people that I would consider family, soul family, that really want to be together and want to have the same mission as I do and want me to be around. So ultimately, I'm feeling really supported right now, because also I'm getting another separate message about, like, for those of you on this path who knew like certain things, like, I don't want to be growing up through my 20s without being in the same town as like family, or being close, you know, being able to be around is really important. And so I just feel like all of that kind of coming together, and I feel like I said, I'm really prophesying or seeing this moment where some of us are realizing, like, especially for those of us who have to come back to certain connections, like connections that maybe you really love and value, but just like have gotten out of control, because like life is taking you down different paths. Like, I'm seeing a revergent or a refocusing on the like, it's almost like the love not even being rekindled, but if someone was living in an illusion, like if you were holding space for an energy that has been kind of lost down its own winding road, I'm seeing that the awareness or the like, there's that mastery. The mastery in you is going to inspire the rekindling. Like so if it's a family unit that's kind of gotten estranged over the years, I'm seeing that whatever this destined and fated event or opportunity is, it's now your mastery is what will make people realize that what's really here, how valuable what we have is. And I think it's all about that Taurus North Node, right? Like, understanding the value of what you have, right? And that's why we see all these fluctuations. And so in a short way, that's kind of what's going to be happening here. And I'm seeing all of that. So it says, it says his disciples gather around him, not to follow him, but to soak up his presence and be inspired by his example. In his eyes, they find their own truth reflected, and in his silence, they fall more easily into the silence of their own beings. That's so crazy, because this is just the mastery, the master card, but we got silence at the bottom, right? So I'm also seeing that your mastery is not just making people reflect
the potential for mastery, but it's also making them sit with, because the master also doesn't need, is silent on a lot of things. Like the master has, like, I'm also seeing like the cords that you cut, you're going to be revisiting situations with people as a completely transformed human being. Do you understand what that means? So that means you're going to be going into spaces where you're going to see people who have kept up like a certain conversation, or maybe they talk about certain events, and you're silent, or you're not energetically in that space anymore, and it's going to make them reflect on their own silence and recognize like, so and so really is disconnected and cut cords from this energy that I'm really invested in. That's making them reflect even in that way. So there's all of that. So the master welcomes the disciples not because he wants to lead them, but because he has so much to share. And this is where I'm seeing like we're welcoming people at this time. You don't realize it, but Spirit is gathering you. And I think it's kind of actually going back to the beginning message of this channel, which had to do with the assembling the 9 paths of gladness. I have a feeling you don't realize you're the teacher. These people are coming to you. Like I was 4 months ago when I first started this channel off the download. The idea was that you were all being brought together by God's gladness, right? There's like these 9 pathways, and you all meet at this sort of spot, X marks the spot, which is where God was leading all of you to. But I have a feeling God is leading people to you, and I think there's this moment where you're going to realize that everyone was being led to you. So that's an interesting take on that as well. Together, they create an energy field that supports each unique individual in finding his or her own light. So I feel like we're also going to be facilitating like an energetic light grounding. Like these people are getting brought together following God's gladness, right? So there are circumstances. So example, if we're using this example of like my family members that are kind of having to crawl from our corners of the United States to come together to go visit, make sure, check, just to be with each other. Not even really check on doing anything for Grandpa, but we're just like, well, shit, we could spend the weekend together, why don't we do that? Because we don't need to take scares lightly, because, so we were just all making that plan. So now we're kind of getting these travel plans together, but I'm seeing it as it's going to create an energy field that actually supports each unique individual in finding his or her own light. So for those who are in the darkness still, I feel like this is a gathering that's really going to allow people to really stand in their own light. And so if you can find such a master, you are blessed. And I think that this is where I talked about like you and everyone you know will be blessed. If you walk to this journey, you and everyone you know will be blessed, because they will be directly learning from someone who has all the answers. For those of us who have not started the ascension journey at all, who could not tell you anything about this, they're not as asleep as they were. Everybody, but it may not be a conscious space, right? So they're going to realize how blessed they are to have someone who is a master. And so I feel like Spirit was lining up your abundance, the news, the calls, the fated and destined like communication. It was getting lined up until you could really show up as a master, and then therefore now it all floods in. So if you cannot, keep on searching. Learn from the teachers and the would-be masters and move on. Charavaiti said, Gautama Buddha, keep on moving. Masters don't teach the truth. Listen to this. There's no way to teach it. It is a transmission beyond scriptures, beyond words. It's a transmission. That's what it is. It is energy provoking energy in you. It is a kind of synchronicity. You have to approach the master with great love, with great trust, and with an open heart. You are not aware who you are. He is aware who he is. He is aware who you are. The caterpillar might be said to be unaware that it may become a butterfly. You are caterpillars, bodhisattvas. All caterpillars are bodhisattvas, and all bodhisattvas are caterpillars. A bodhisattva means one who can become a butterfly, one who can become a Buddha. One who is Buddha is the seed in essence. The master-disciple relationship is the relationship between a caterpillar and a butterfly, a friendship between a caterpillar and a butterfly. The butterfly cannot prove that the caterpillar can become a butterfly. There is no logical way. But the butterfly can provoke a longing in the caterpillar that is possible. So I just have a feeling that, again, I'm seeing this fated and destined culmination that we talked about at the beginning of this, that meetup, but it actually is a meetup around a master or masters. I'm not even going to really narrow it down, but you're being guided to a master or an example that can't logically tell you how to get from your life to the highest timeline, but it can inspire you to long for the level of reflection and self-awareness that they've cultivated, because they only know you. Like, as a master, we would only know you as deep as we know ourselves. So if you see that someone was always able to like read you to filth, like there are some people that you've just known how it was going to end up for them, right? But you can't really tell, like, so for example, with some of my family members, there are certain things that I've seen psychically, and mind you, kind of had a coming out process with my psychicness, because it's not exactly like all above the table. So, but with psychic, and really more so to myself, not to like other people. I just mean like I didn't really know what I was doing, but a lot of times I would have all of these premonitions, and what I know now is like psychic intuitive downloads about like what things are and how things will end, and you know, whatever, things like that. And there have been people in my family who I feel like in the past that's the conversation. I would be like a butterfly, for example, trying to talk to them, the caterpillar, and tell them like, hey, I promise you, you're gonna be a butterfly. There was no logical way. So when I would try to assert these psychic downloads to people, there was no logic there, because it's magic. So it's like, I can't really logically explain to you why I'm giving you this information or why you should navigate accordingly. So before it was like, it was blocked in that way, and I just saw 2,600. But I get that through consistency, and now actually through this unveiling of who you actually are now, this transform, because you should be excited to do anything once you've transformed. Like, now that I've really changed, like, I'm like, well, yeah, I'm down to do whatever, because people seeing this version of me is like a true gift, you know? So I think finally what was impossible after like years and years and years and years of trying to get people to like really see, like, because and when I say get people to see things, it's not like my own subjective opinion. It's like people who don't know certain laws of the universe, like people who don't know law of attraction. You ever watch somebody do some shit and you know, like, damn, they're gonna just keep attracting negativity because they just don't know that certain tangible information. So before, when I would try to share that kind of information, there was a blockage because I couldn't be a butterfly trying to tell a caterpillar you're gonna be a butterfly, and they're like, what, right? So this is about how you are able to actually persuade people, right? Which is really all you can do. You can't really do anything for other people. You can't choose for them. You can't make them feel anything. But you can develop a sense of longing. You can understand that with the premise that we're all reflections. After being around a certain projected image for long enough, like, how does that make you feel? Does that make you reflect anything at all? So it's like playing into that energy. So I'm really excited because like I said, that was like 27 minutes worth of download. I didn't even have to pull tarot, which is amazing. Just to tell you that, like, yeah, I'm hearing, yeah, like, you're the mouse. It's a big deal. I mean, like, and I also feel like I said, there was a lot of filler months in between. So I feel like a lot of readers on here would have had you pimped out, because every week was, oh my god, the best week ever. Oh my god, the best thing in my life. Oh my god. You know, so we weren't really doing, so, you know, you get really disappointed when you come through 90 best weeks ever, and it's like none of those things are happening. So, I feel pretty darn excited. I think this would be the time, if any time, to get really amped, because I think we're about to see the mastery, what mastery does, how big it actually is. Did I not talk to you about the paths? They're all getting led to you, the master. They're all getting led to you, and you're going to be the wheel of fortune for your whole community. You're going to be the wheel of fortune for everyone who knows you. Why? Because you will be the master. It's like, and this is also where, like, so remember we talked about in the last video, or maybe 2 videos ago, but the last 2 series, we were talking about that peace amongst thorns, right? So it hadn't yet arrived. It was like, your external reality, like, I'm still in this back bedroom here, like, we're still off the same thing. So regardless of the levels of ascension that I've attained, like, I'm still yet waiting for that opportunity for it to manifest into my physical. This is when it manifests into your physical. But what it manifests as is you see that all of these things were being guided to you. And so you're seeing your mastery reflected by all the things that are now looking at you like, oh, you've mastered it. And it's just going to inspire a completely different, it's just going to inspire is the word, you know, the master inspires. So let's get it going. Oh my god, the 9 of Cups in reverse. No more of this paradigm, right? Because when I look at this on the upright, I almost feel like someone is there's a wanting it all, but not actually. Like, here's the thing. This is when, remember we talked about with the Nine of Cups, you can't have somebody because something really wants, like, one partner is really in demand here, but the other is, like, there's an unavailability in the Nine of Cups. The Nine of Cups says you should be focused on you, not on the partnership, right? You should be focused on cultivating the stability because you're in high demand. There are a lot of offers for you, and so it's about, like, so trying to connect to partner. This is almost like I just heard, weirdly enough, a line that's like, what's a I'm a bachelor, like, what is a wife? Like, it's almost like Nine of Cups reversed too, because this is because he's not even trying, right? Like, if this one was actually in danger and she's in the middle of the whatever and he's on the cliff and he can't reach her and he's like, oh, it's like when it comes up in the reverse, the guidance is, I think this is the awareness, because I think some people realize that they were in, it's shadow integration. Some spirit is trying to move people forward, and I think, again, the people that are congregating, this is what I'm hearing, the people that are coming to the master, like, so, and this could be all over, there are millions of billions of people, places, things, ascended beings all over the place that are now having, like, things congregating to it, and they're the things that have not integrated their shadow. So this is still, how do I say, this is not shadow integration. This is dominion over your shadow. This is keeping your shadow in check, which would mean still treating it like an op versus an integrated aspect of yourself. And so when I see that, I feel like some people were making decisions. I'm hearing some people were just, like, making decisions from this space where their shadow side, they're just trying to keep it contained. And I was just about to say, because they're making partnerships. Like, this is how some people's partnerships are looking. Like, people are almost, like, you're gonna see people just let it go. Like, I don't know how to say this because the Two of Cups accidentally kicked it out of the deck, but it's like this self-willing shows there's, like, a level of demand over here that someone is, they're on dry land, because at the end of the day, you're not enough to go jump in the water after over the 9 offers of fulfillment they have here. Like, this is like being like, oh, the way that I would describe, like, this type of relationship is like, oh, what? Like, what do they say? I'm almost thinking of, like, those women those, like, 35-year-old women who marry, like, 89-year-old men, right? And it's like, oh my god, my nigga's about to die. What? No. You know what I mean? It's like that. It's like there are relationships. I think that what we're about to see are the relationships, the Two of Cups in reverse, Nine of Cups in reverse, where it's being highlighted how much, like, where your relationship, thank you, Spirit, your relationship is now directly blocking your internal fulfillment. So your desire, and so the world is trying to reflect to you how in demand, how wanted you are, how many opportunities, how sought after you are, but your attention and focus is on something that, on the Two of Cups in reverse. This damn, you see what I mean? And this is also an ego thing, because this guy likes being needed. Like, it's the weird Disney princess trope. I'm hearing so many different things on Astral right now. It's like this weird Disney princess trope of, like, I like being Prince Charming. It doesn't really matter at this point, though, because your personal emotional fulfillment, it's like being pitted against that. And it's also recognized that she's being attacked by the serpent, by the snake spirit, right? So this is spirit also saying this is something that will be sacrificed up to, like, it's the temptation of playing a role is what I'm hearing for another partnership. So we're seeing people who, and it stems from people who haven't integrated their shadow, from people that treat their shadows like ops. A master does not treat their shadow like an op. A master recognizes that their shadow is exactly like their fucking face. It's a part of them. And I'm not gonna go schizo on somebody and try to act like
this is the way to handle it, bro. Yeah, like, because this is almost the energy I hear from these people. It's like, yeah, dude, like, you know, like it's like people who don't integrate their shadow. That's how they look. They're always like thinking that they look like the chief of police while their shadow's like in timeout. It's like not necessary. You get me? It's interesting. Of course this card comes out because I tell you about this card all the time. The Five of Swords in this deck is like, who's the real chump here? Is it the nigga who killed Miss Cheetah? No, it's actually this punk who watched his bitch get stabbed 3 times by this nigga and is actually just like, I'm gonna fall back. Because you could judge him for stabbing her because the lion's probably gonna go back to the jungle and be like, oh my god, so-and-so just killed Miss Cheetah. Oh my god, what the hell is wrong with him? And you can talk all this shit about him who had to go toe-to-toe with his investment for light and for dark. Right? Because after the Four of Swords, the Five of Swords is when you learn to use your truth, when you have to apply it. Right? And you can only apply a sword. Remember we talked about samurai are scary. Why are samurai? We watch so many samurai stories, we watch so many animes, but why is like samurai? I had this whole spiritual download about samurais like a couple years ago, where your spirit was like, you do realize like every samurai that walks around is the best samurai that's ever lived. Why do you say that, Alexis? Because if they're deeming themselves as a samurai and they're still alive, that means they've won every battle they've ever come across, if they've ever come across battle, right? So this is that samurai energy where it's like, wow, like it's murder gang. Like you either get murked or you live, you know what I mean? On to go fight another battle. But regardless, I'm getting this energy where someone else, there is a end to a relationship. Because remember we talked about Two of Cups coming in. So now we're talking about all those other partnerships, all those other narrative makers, and I'm having a feeling that the cowardice is really going to be on display because they're not actually willing to get into the ring for you. Like, this is a partnership. Like, doesn't this look just like someone who's not actually really willing to like I'm hearing it's not even just an ending, but it's an ending, Dark Night of the Soul. So there's about to be serious hermit modes initiated because you're going to realize that like when it really matters, you weren't really willing to jump in. You weren't really willing to render aid to this serpent. I was just about to, oh no, you know what I mean? We're not Two of Cups, and you're certainly just watching as the pain happens. As I go fight the pain, as I go try to, there's something about that with these partnerships where you're realizing someone's not that cute. Right? And it may be painful because Dark Night of the Souls always are because the lights are out. So in order for your light to shine, it's going to have to be some darkness. But I feel like it's so funny that Spirit brought out the Nine of Cups reverse, the Two of Cups reverse, and the Five of Swords, which literally means that this partnership is going to make you sharpen your truth, which might also mean you see partnerships in other people where like you got to stab the other and go dolo and light your way forward. But there's honor, and just know that